Fattening for Gabon. Darkness is used throughout the story, not only a literal darkness, but also the darkness in the sense of keeping people in the dark. The children's uncle kept them in the dark about the truth regarding the Gabon deal, and that's really what led to their downfall. The darkness represents the lies and the secrets. Both the children's uncle and the narrator think to run away at night, but the night isn't dark enough the first time, and that's why they get caught. The first quote, "Dealing with my sister in such darkness was like arguing or fighting with a faceless enemy who could strike at any time. I would have given anything to see her face. Maybe my tears would have convinced her of my innocence." Here the darkness is hiding the truth, because Yua cannot see what he really feels. In the second quote, "Now my insides were rising and falling with joy. I began to fantasize about our escape. Our best bet was to run in the middle of the night while he was asleep. I hadn't thought about where we would run, but it didn't bother me. My joy now was that freedom was within our reach. I just needed to manage my excitement until then. Again, like on the day Fofo tried to run away with us, I thought it was important for me not to tell Yua anything until we were ready to leave. I didn't want to risk it." Here the darkness is not literal darkness. The narrator chooses to keep his sister in the dark, like their uncle had about the plans of their escape. The fact that Yua was kept in the dark was the sole reason she was actually unable to escape with her brother. The moon was also bright on the night that the narrator runs away, but I think that this was more to represent his shame and the light being shown on the truth, as he even says that he would never be able to outrun the cries of his sister. This brings us to shame and guilt. In this first quote, "But now the shame in Fofo's eyes squashed my doubts. I was angry with them." We can see that shame is one thing that reflects the truth. The narrator could see the pain through his uncle's shame, and that's what he could trust. He also comes to deal with his own shame and guilt. The second quote explains the guilt that he felt regarding the death of his uncle. He says, "Guilt filled my heart. I held myself responsible for his death, although I didn't know what I could have done to stop it. Maybe I should have been the one who was beaten, instead of Fofo. I hated myself and began to consider myself as bad as Big Guy and our godparents and our games master. I felt I had learned evil from them. I had learned to smile and be angry at the same time. My little pretenses before the guard worried me, and I felt my uncle would still be alive if I hadn't encouraged him to flee that night. Although he had no power over the situation, he felt responsible for what had happened, and this emphasizes his actual innocence and his goodness." In this third quote, "With Fofo dead, I felt I needed to beat them at their own game. I felt I had the right to be an even worse human being than Big Guy." This shows a shift. The boy now feels that he has the right to be guilty because of the terrible things that have happened to him, which, is rightfully so. He could do things that he otherwise would have considered bad, but his situation actually justifies them. This reflects his uncle's situation, and the fact that he had to force a smile mirrors his uncle's forced smile because of a scar. This emphasizes the similarities between him and his uncle, and this causes the reader to empathize with the children's Fofo, because, like the little boy, he thought he was doing the only thing that he could do, or he thought he was doing the right thing, and that the bad things he was doing would be justified in the long run. In the final quote, "I ran into the bush, blades of elephant grass slashing my body, thorns and rough earth piercing my feet. I took the key and padlock from my pocket and flung them into the brush. I ran and I ran, though I knew I would never outrun the wails of my sister." This illustrates that although we can do what we think is right, we can never really outrun our actions, and we never really know the effects that those actions will have in the end. Smiles are something else that are emphasized in the story, and especially in this particular section. Big Guy refers to the children's Fofo as Smiley, which is the nickname that he got because of the scar that he had on his face. It was a forced smile. The narrator talks about smiles when he says that he learned to smile to be angry, how to smile and be angry at the same time from the evil men in his life. He too was forced to bear a smile on his face even when he hated the situation that he was in. Here, smiles actually then come to represent deceit. Therefore, smiles throughout the rest of the story can't really be trusted. So this first quote, "She was understandably uplifted by being in the parlor and hummed many a Christian chorus, something she had not done since we tried to escape. She smiled at us often and peered at everything as if she were seeing it for the first time." This then comes to foreshadow you as being left behind. Her ignorance gave her the ability to smile, but this ignorance is also what led to her inability to escape. The second quote, "We were put in the back room. I was excited and jumpy and kept smiling in the dark." This can also come to foreshadow the failed escape plans because, although he's smiling, his smiles are left unseen. I think that the overall idea of the story is that there's no clear line that separates right from wrong. Like the first lesson that Fofo taught the children, some lies are necessary and some lies are justified. However, it's these lies that kept people behind, and this causes the audience to question whether it's truly justifiable, whether it's actually the right thing to do, or if it's just better to tell the ugly truth.